Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, August 26th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area, and we'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here, December corn down 4 3/4 at 386 1/4. November soybeans were down 8 at 965, and December Chicago wheat was down 5 1/4 at 522 3/4. No export sales announcements here this morning. Good morning, guys. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Yes, on Friday, we saw Pro Farmer release their national crop estimates, 181.1 for corn. That's versus the USDA that's at 183.1. And I think one of the bigger surprises was the soybean yield at 54.9. That's against the USDA at 53.2. Justin, you made some comments here this morning before the show on corn and basically how it traded overnight. So maybe a few thoughts there to kick off the week, and we'll throw it around the room.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I think on face value, Pro Farmer Tour was friendly corn and bearish beans based on their yield estimates. Again, we've talked about this. I think the trend's good. They use the same kernel depth regardless of year. So in big years, they're probably going to undershoot the national number in corn, and small years they overshoot it. Just by that methodology alone. So you kind of have to determine what you think kernel fill is going to be, and same with all these regional crop tours that we're getting that you'll see coming up in different parts of the state, the country. It's good. Those regional ones I really like because you're comparing the same fields, the same people, kind of a little bit more history of that area. But again, you're always dividing through by, usually it's 90,000 kernels. And anyone that's done those knows that if it fills out really big, it'll be closer to 75 in these good areas, and bad years it's closer to 100 or higher. So that's the big variation you can have. So apples to apples, you're just looking at kernel count. So nothing shocking there. I think obviously beans the pod counts were huge in a lot of these areas. So I guess it was shocking that they came out with that big of a number. But given the pod counts, I guess it makes sense. And that's equally the same importance is going to be, are they big bean size or small bean size? How do we, how are the moisture profiles and how do we finish those crops? So got a little heat and dryness here, but looks like there's still on and off showers for a good chunk of the belt. And I think the pressure that we've been talking about going into harvest is real. We made new contract lows overnight again. So until we get, through first notice day, you have to see kind of how we act after first notice day, which we've talked in abundance about on this show and other people have too. So there's just not a lot of love in the markets right now. We're not seeing a lot of end users really feel like they have to get, super bought right now. They're kind of hand to mouth, it feels like. And there's enough farmer pressure to keep the markets, grinding lower.
Ben, what's on your mind this morning?
Yeah, I think that Justin nailed it on the head there, especially at the end. It's going to take the end user to feel a little bit threatened to materially reverse these markets anytime in the next, few weeks. Not to say that we can't have a nice bounce after first notice day, but right now they're in a really good spot, right? It's we're seeing wider carries, we're seeing lower prices, and they're sitting on their hands, and they haven't seen anything yet to really spook them out of waiting. And the managed money continues to get paid. Now, new lows overnight in corn, beans not quite there yet, but not far away. And I think that when we get to end of September, early October, I think you're going to see corn do a lot of business, but that's 30 days from now. So the end user is not in the least bit worried about supplying corn.
Dustin, any thoughts on your mind here?
Corn.
Just first notice day is, I think, a big thing that just to kind of reiterate that first notice day is, the first business day of the month, or I'm sorry, last business day of the month. So Thursday, the 29th was would be that last day that any September contract needs to be rolled or sold. And you think, you just hit a new low in September overnight, 24 under. So the the challenge, anyone that's delivered corn against, an unsold bushel in the last couple of months has done it against this September contract more than likely. So they have a choice this week, and that's either take another 24-cent hit on basis and roll to the December and wait for a rebound on that contract month, or sell. And I think that you just had, some really good finishing weather for corn. A lot of people are looking at potential record crops, and they're aggravated the wins out of their sales. So how many of those people sell and how many of them roll is kind of the question. Even if there's a record open interest last week, September contract going into first notice day week, if half of them are selling, half of them are rolling, that's still a weight that the market may not be prepared for. And I think that's why we see a surprise drop, along with beans, even though the pro farmer number was somewhat friendly for corn. It would be very interesting to see what happens Friday and beyond and next week. If we break into Thursday and rally Friday into next week, that'd be almost a perfect playbook of what first notice day looks like. Of course, what's unique about this first notice day is we're also coming into a record harvest in the next couple of months. So it may not be as defined as other ones have been, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it.
Justin, in your opinion, are we finishing this thing off in a record fashion? I mean, looking at kind of the 12 to 14 days, because realistically, 12 or 14 days is about all you need, right, for a majority of these guys to get to the finish line for this crop?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's areas that are not going to finish very well. Probably missed out on a few rains, the last, few weeks or so. A lot of people did get good rains and had good moisture coming into it. So it seems pretty good. I mean, we're going to have a hot, dry spell here for a little bit, but then it looks like some rains come through. So if it never rained again, I would say it's not going to finish great. It's still August 26th. So to get over the top record yields, I think you need to keep that moisture profile high and get that really good kernel fill, all the way through late September. Those years, I can remember the years that we really, really get those big yields. I mean, the fields are green through September and October, so TBD. I'd say the chances are, definitely skewed towards the favor of a good finish, just with the kind of patterns that we've been in, and we've had cool nights, and, we're getting into, call it a week of kind of hot weather out of nowhere in August. I don't personally think that's enough to really hurt the corn crop in any meaningful way. But you can certainly take the edge off. And that's kind of what we've talked about too, about, does the ending yield end up being in the mid 180s or high 170s or somewhere in the middle? I think we've traded personally that we're trading the 184 or higher national yield right now, or at least that's how the market acts. But it could just be that, it could also just be order flow with farmer selling and just the time of year. Beans, that's a really tough one. I think a lot of areas are going to have fantastic beans. I mean, Illinois looks like it's going to have a really, really big bean crop, but beans are one of the toughest ones, I think, especially on a national level. It's hard on your own farm. You go look like, yeah, there's a lot of pods. Like, what's the yield going to be like? Could be 70 or 95. I mean, it's kind of how it feels like every year. So I think getting the national bean yield is really tough.
Yeah, more trend. I mean, you look at pro farmers, just their opinion. I mean,
it's the pod counts. I mean, that's the only really thing you can count right now, and they're higher. So the potential's there. And I don't see anything right now that would say you have to poo-poo that number.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Ryland had cattle on feed on Friday. Placements came in a little higher than expected, but otherwise, fairly neutral across the board there. So maybe a few thoughts on livestock as we start the week.
Yeah, I think just overall, you're right, Dan. I mean, the placements are where the focus kind of going in, and I think just the fact that it was the standout number, just being a little bit above expectation, probably added to a little bit of a bearish tone kind of coming into this morning. So we'll see how the market reacts. It didn't look like this was going to be a number that really caught a lot of people off guard, and I think the expectation now is that we're just going to keep on ramping up imports. And at this stage of the game, trying to kind of replace, the supply that's missing right now with just kind of with imports, or with making that back on higher weights. So overall, it just kind of felt like you may get a little bit of a kind of a negative tone to kind of start here this morning. But I think longer term, everybody's going to be looking at cash trajectory, going to be looking at beef prices. So I feel like we're going to trade this report kind of right off the bat, and then it's going to fall on deaf ears for the most part. I mean, cash has been lower all last week. We've seen the market kind of fall out of bed here, but has since kind of stabilized. Cash was mostly too lower last week. I think the expectations for another kind of steady to lower trade here as we see the week progress, but we're probably not going to see that till the end of the week. So overall, Packer margins are improving. They got a little bit more money to throw around. Typically, we see the market, especially October, start to firm up this time of year. The October futures, I think right now at this big discount, have a lot of room to breathe, especially for where cash is trading. So if we get a surprise kind of steady, maybe higher trade towards the end of the week, I think just overall it's going to embolden some of the longs that are out there. Managed money has since kind of reduced their position a little bit, their net long position. And I think that's something that everybody's just kind of worried about, just in case we see some kind of really negative number and see a mass liquidation. So we're down about almost 4,000 contracts on commitment last week from the managed money, but they're still net long 41,000 contracts. So I think that's a risk, but it's still kind of a manageable position. They didn't get out of that much, but the market absolutely cratered. And I think that's just a function of cash versus anything else. So we'll see what market wants to do, but overall, it's kind of a lower tone going into this morning.
Very good. I appreciate that. One thing to note, we will have crop conditions out at 3:00 Central. We'll look at that here this evening, talk about it tomorrow morning. If you like the show as much as we like doing it, give us a like or subscribe. We appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. Liking and subscribing doesn't cost you anything, helps us, and certainly keeps you up to speed on everything AgYield and opens up the premium content that you can view. So just go ahead and give us a like or subscribe. Every day that the markets are open, we're streaming live on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, 8:15 Central Time. Thanks for the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good conversation. Hope everybody has a good start to the week. We look forward to talking to you again tomorrow morning.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.